All right, so what's the real difference between someone who hits a wall and just gives up and someone else who sees that exact same wall as, I don't know, a stepping stone? It's not really about talent or luck. It turns out it's about a single, really powerful idea that can completely reshape your entire approach to life. So let's dive in and figure out what that is. And this is the exact question that got psychologist Carol Dweck so fascinated. I mean, think about it for a second. When you face a setback, like a really tough project at work, or maybe a critical comment from someone, what's your gut reaction? Is it just, ugh, I'm a failure? Or is it more like, okay, hold on, what can I learn here? Your answer, whichever it is, points directly to your underlying mindset. So, it turns out, what Dweck discovered is that the answer isn't about raw talent, and it's not even about luck. It all, and I mean all of it, comes down to two profoundly different ways of seeing our own ability. And this is where we get to meet the two mindsets that pretty much shape our lives. Okay, so this is the fundamental split right here. On one hand, you've got the fixed mindset. This is the belief that your qualities are like a hand of cards you were dealt at birth. They're static, they're unchangeable. That's that. But on the other hand, there's the growth mindset, which sees those exact same qualities more like muscles that can be developed with effort. It's really the difference between constantly feeling like you have to prove you're smart versus actually focusing on becoming smarter. So when you believe your traits are just carved in stone, everything in life becomes a test, right? Every single situation is basically calling for you to confirm your intelligence, your personality, your character. It creates this constant, urgent need for validation, this pressure to prove to everyone and yourself that you're holding a royal flush, and not just a pair of twos. And this isn't just some internal battle we're fighting alone. Our culture actually reinforces this stuff all the time. As Carol Dweck points out, even the self-esteem movement, which had all these good intentions, can accidentally feed this fixed mindset. It can make us feel like we need that constant praise, that constant confirmation that, yep, I'm special, I'm talented, I'm superior. So, this constant need to prove your talent, it has this really fascinating and kind of dangerous consequence. It completely changes your relationship with effort. And this leads us to a big, and I mean really dangerous idea, the myth of effortless achievement. This right here, this is the core belief of the fixed mindset when it comes to effort. Basically, effort is seen as a liability, not an asset. The thinking goes, well, true geniuses, they don't need to try, right? Things just come easily to them. So if you have to work hard at something, it feels like this big, embarrassing admission that you weren't born with it. And this fear it's profound. I mean, check this out. The violin prodigy Nadja Salino Sonnenberg was apparently terrified of truly trying her best. And why? Well, because if you give something your absolute all and you still fail, there are no excuses left. The verdict is in. You can't protect your ego anymore by saying, oh, I could have been a great violinist, I just didn't really apply myself. Effort completely removes that safety net. Now, let's flip that on its head and contrast that fear with the mindset of someone like soccer legend Mia Hamm. For her, effort wasn't a sign of weakness at all. It was the entire point. It was the engine of her growth. She would actively seek out tougher challenges because she just knew that's where the real improvement was hiding. So you see, one mindset literally runs from effort, while the other runs directly towards it. Okay, so this naturally leads us to the next big question, right? What happens when things inevitably go wrong? Because they will. Is failure some kind of final, devastating judgment on your abilities? Or is it just feedback? Well, when things went wrong for the tennis great John McEnroe, it was never his fault. Dweck's book highlights this incredible list of excuses he'd use. I mean, get this. He didn't lose because his opponent played better. Nope. He lost because he had a backache, or the weather was too hot, or it was too cold, or a cameraman made a noise. Literally anything but a deficiency in his own game. Because in the fixed mindset, you have to protect that idea of your natural talent at all costs. And then you've got Michael Jordan. Wow. He doesn't just tolerate failure, he literally embraces it. He sees every single missed shot, every lost game, not as some final verdict on his talent, but as a data point. It's just information, a reason to go back to the gym and practice even harder. For him, failure wasn't the opposite of success, it was the fuel for it. And that's the bottom line, really. For the fixed mindset, failure is a brand. It's a label. You become the person who didn't get the promotion. It feels like a permanent stain. But for the growth mindset, Failure is just an action, not an identity. It's a temporary setback that gives you incredibly valuable information for the next time you try. All right, so let's take these ideas out of the psychology lab and into the real world. How does this stuff actually play out in the highest stakes environments you can think of, from professional sports to the Fortune 500? First off, let's just completely dismantle this myth of the natural. We look at someone like Michael Jordan or Jackie Joyner-Kersee, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and we just assume their greatness was obvious from day one. But it totally wasn't. Jordan was famously cut from his high school basketball team. Joyner-Kersee consistently finished last when she was starting out. Their success wasn't some gift they were handed. It was earned through a growth mindset and just relentless hard work. And this contrast is incredibly stark in the business world. Just look at this. On one side, you have the talent mindset of a company like Enron. They hired a bunch of so-called geniuses, and it led to this toxic culture of ego, blame, and hiding mistakes. But on the other side, you've got the good to great companies. They fostered leaders who were humble, who were learners, who weren't afraid to confront failure head-on. And well, the results kind of speak for themselves, don't they? One path led to a spectacular collapse, and the other led to sustained greatness. Okay, so this is all pretty fascinating, right? But what can you actually do about it? Well, here's the good news. Your mindset isn't, well, it's not fixed. You can actually change it. Now, it's not like flipping a switch, but it is a journey, a path you can actively choose to walk down. And Dweck gives us a really practical 4-step guide to make this change happen. So step 1, learn to hear that fixed mindset voice. You know the one. It's the one that whispers, you can't do this, or what if you fail? Step 2, recognize that you have a choice. It's just a voice. You don't have to listen. Step 3, talk back to it, but with a growth mindset voice. So instead of I failed, you consciously tell yourself, I'm learning. And finally, step 4, and this is the big one, you take the growth mindset action. You embrace the challenge, you put in the work, and you learn from whatever happens. But listen, here's a really crucial tip. Just vowing to be different isn't enough. I think we all know that. Research shows willpower on its own often fails us. What really works is making a vivid, concrete plan. So don't just say, yeah, I'll study more. No, say, tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'm going to the library, I'm turning off my phone, and I'm going to work on chapter 3 for exactly 1 hour. That kind of specific plan is what turns a good intention into real action. And all of this really brings us to the ultimate question. When you look back on your life, on your career, your relationships, everything, what story do you want to be able to tell? The tennis champion Billie Jean King, she frames this choice just perfectly. Are you going to look back and see a life full of polished trophies, of unused potential, a life defined by the comfort of saying, I could have been? Or will you look back and see the story of someone who engaged fully, who stretched themselves, who struggled, yeah, but who gave their absolute all for the things that truly mattered to them? The mindset you choose right now, today, that's what writes the story for tomorrow.